For nearly 30 years, I noticed the same thing. The higher someone climbed in their leadership, the thinner the air became. Not because the work got easier, but quite the opposite. The higher they went, the fewer people were willing to tell them the real truth. The feedback they received became filtered. Their relationships became more transactional. Their calendar filled with more and more meetings. But meaningful conversations became harder and harder to find. And somewhere along the way, growth quietly gave way to performance. Everyone around them cared about the results that they produced, but very few were helping them become the kind of leader capable of producing those results sustainably. I saw it over and over and over again. I spent more than 20 years inside of the Fortune 500 world, developing leaders who would eventually become vice presidents, senior vice presidents, and C suite executives at companies like Eli Lilly, Roche, and Elanco. Before that, I grew up on a seventh generation Indiana farm, and I graduated from Purdue's College of Agriculture. Agriculture taught me something that's never, ever left me. Healthy growth is always an inside job. You can polish up the outside of a plant all day long, but if the roots aren't healthy, eventually the fruit tells the truth. Looking back, I wasn't studying leadership theories. I was always studying people, hundreds of people, different companies, different personalities, different industries, yet the same patterns kept emerging. There was the executive who felt they always had to have the answer so that nobody brought unfinished ideas into the room. The CEO who rehearsed every board presentation until it sounded just perfect, but underneath was carrying the weight of believing they couldn't afford to look uncertain. The leader whose calendar had no margin on it because somewhere deep inside, productivity had quietly become their measure of worth. From the outside, these looked like leadership problems, but the longer I watched, the more convinced I became that they weren't leadership problems at all. They were human patterns that happened to show up in leadership, patterns that were usually much, much older than the promotion was. Patterns that had once protected them were now quietly limiting them just the same. For a long time, I thought I was simply observing these patterns in other people. Then life had a way of holding up a mirror. Several corporate restructurings, burnout, starting my own company, and for the first time, I had enough space to ask a question I had spent years helping everyone else answer. What was driving me? Like so many people, I would have told you that I had a wonderful childhood, and I did. I was loved, I was supported, I was given incredible opportunities at a pretty young age. But I also came to realize something that changed my life. You don't need a catastrophic childhood to carry unresolved experiences. Even good stories sometimes leave marks. Mine had. The achiever in me, the fixer in me, the part that always wanted to prove my value. Those weren't leadership strategies. They were protective patterns I'd been carrying for years without realizing they were the ones leading. That discovery didn't just change my leadership, it changed my marriage, it changed my parenting, it changed my faith and my health. And it completely changed how I coach. That's why I founded Conjunction Leadership in 2019. Not to build another leadership consulting firm, but to create a place where leaders could do the work that most leadership development never reaches. One layer below the behavior, one layer below strategy, one layer below performance. Because when you change the leader, leadership changes naturally. That's the work that I get to do every day. In the next video, I'll show you why I believe most leadership development misses the mark and the framework I've built for helping leaders create lasting change instead of temporary improvement. I'm Jim Bishop, and thanks for being here.